What is up? Welcome into the Early Edge powered by SportsLine. I am your host, Alan Bell. This is our college football week 4 mega preview. We are going to go through every big game, find some diamonds in the roughs. Essentially, we want to find every single bet that you need to make in college football this week. So we're going to waste zero time because who wants to stare at my ugly mug? Let's bring the guys in here. Chip, it's good to see you, buddy. It's been a week. How we doing, my man?
Looking forward to the bounce back. There was a little bit of blood on the floor after our week 3. We had to sharpen up our numbers and make sure we tapped in with all of our new resources across the country. But I'm feeling good about week 4.
Yeah, there was some blood on the floor. We're going to show that here in just a second. I took just a sledgehammer to the face. It was a tough weekend. Micah, how we doing, buddy?
We're doing pretty good. I'm all excited about Friday. My UNLV Rebels get to face Fresno State. And, I'm trying to figure out, I'm watching Coastal Carolina, Liberty, and Marshall, and teams like this build up in such a short time to be really good squads. What is going on with my Rebels? It's probably going to be another 5-10 years. Who knows? But they got the stadium. They've got the facilities. They've got everything going for them except the players, recruiting, and coaches.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're gonna
just the players, recruiting, and coaching.
Yes.
That's all we got to fix there at UNLV. You don't think that with the potential letdown spot? I mean, not from the wagering angle, but from the fan emotional angle, Micah, you've got to at least think maybe on a Friday night, short turnaround, they were Pac-12 after dark. Maybe we can catch them slipping.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that. I'm not putting my money on it. But I do like their uniforms. I like that direction we're going in. They're very nice. Nike's done an amazing job.
Hey, well, like you said, beyond all of that, they got the uniforms down. So, I mean, that's half the battle right there. All right, let's take a look at how we did last week. Let's pull this up here. And you're right. I mean, there were some nice wins there, right? Michigan State, solid win. Minnesota, the Auburn-Penn State under Chip, you were solid on that one, Mike. And San Diego State continues to come through for you. Yeah. Now, some X's on the board here. Look, I think one of the more popular plays last weekend was Marshall -10, right? And I was in Tunica over the weekend, and I felt great about it, even before we had the show, and they lose outright, right? I think that goes to show what college football is this year. And I'll pull this back down here. We've had, 19 ranked teams that have already lost? I believe that number is correct. It's week 4. You might not have that in an entire season, right? And we're seeing some of that in the NFL as well in terms of at any game, anybody can win. I mean, last week, the Raiders going on the road to Pittsburgh on a short week, banged up, injured, and they just outright win. There's madness, that's going on. So let's get into the storylines that affect week 4 betting. Chip, I'm going to throw it over to you first, my man. You want to talk about, speaking of things banged up, quarterbacks, injuries, competitions, complaints. What do you got, buddy?
Yeah, just the unsettled quarterback positions that we have all across the country, including at some of our big brand names and some of the teams that we just want to wager on. We think about Ohio State, where CJ Stroud is dealing with an issue with his throwing shoulder. He's probably going to start the game against Akron, but is he going to finish the game against Akron? And what does all these snaps mean for the total? What do these mean for what side you might want to take on that? Don't take Akron, please, for your own heart. Don't take that one. If you want to play the total, that's fine, or the Buckeyes, that's fine. Out west, Keaton Slovis back from the neck injury that knocked him out of the game, but interim coach Dante Williams has said this is an open competition, and that's where I say the quarterback competition. We do not have Jackson Dart necessarily healthy enough to be able to play against Oregon State, but Jackson Dart looked fantastic. 391 yards, 4 touchdowns once Slovis got knocked out. Just based on the little bit of sample size we have only this year, Jackson Dart might be the guy, but how healthy is he, and will that interim staff turn the reins over to him? There's just a lot of different places across the country where I think that you can look at the quarterback position and think wow, I need to know exactly what the coaching plan is for how to use these quarterbacks before I can feel confident wagering on this team, because so much seems in flux.
Yeah, it really does. And Micah, before we jump over to you, I want to tell everybody that's in the chat, first off, thank you for tuning in, joining us. This show is seriously, it's all about you. We want you to make it as fun as you want it to be. Put your questions in the chat for our guys. Seriously, we'll get to it. I assure you, if you drop that in there, make sure to hit that like button. You know that I want to give away as many year-long subscriptions to SportsLine as we can. We need to hit those likes in order to do it, but we're going to have all kinds of fun little giveaways today, right? But the likes are the most important. So make sure you hit those and then drop any comments, questions, anything that you have, because we know it's Wednesday. We're setting up all of our bets for this weekend, and we all want to get there. And you might have a question on a game that we're not necessarily looking at, right? So it might lead us down that road. Micah, you want to talk about, in terms of betting, a quick refresher on just how to bet college football, how to look at it from your expert perspective. What you got, my man?
Well, I'm looking at it because it's so popular now. It's not just a Nevada thing anymore. It's not just illegal. It's everywhere nationally. Sportsbook, every ad on the radio station, TV, in the newspapers that are still active. They're just spending millions and millions of dollars advertising. You got to wonder, how are they doing all this? First of all, the new books, it's floating money. That's a whole nother story. But what I'll tell you is, from the reports I did behind the counter with the sportsbook, I would analyze all the categories with the sports, break them down with parlay, straight bets, teasers, everything. And what I found is that the best thing to do for the bettor is do what the books lose at the most. And that would be, of the parlays, the 2-team parlay, I highly recommend. I highly recommend straight bets only. But if you got a parlay, you go for 2 and don't go for any more. That's where they get you. That's where Las Vegas built up all these beautiful sports books and these $1 million screens from those parlays. It's the greed factor, and they get you with that. Now, nationally, these books are just using off of the apps, and they're spending all your parlay money that you lose over the years on these advertisements. So consider this when you're betting. 2-teamers, I recommend side to total, because if one thing happens, the other thing is most likely to happen. You've already handicapped it, so go ahead and throw that in there. But go 3 teams and above and beyond, no, just stay away from that stuff. It's about making money, having fun, of course, but you have fun if you win, and you can't win if you put yourself in the negative already by putting everything together with the lottery ticket. You know, people are talking about this parlay, the 16-team parlay was going to pay $750,000. A guy had $25 buy-in, free play. He got to Monday night against the Lions plus 400. He cashed out on that, but it was $750,000. And this is what people see and why they go, because they want the big payout. You bet a little to win a lot. I'm saying just bet a little to win a little, or bet a lot to win a lot, whatever. But only one thing to happen for you to cover your bet. That's my PSA for the day. That's all I got.
No, I love it. Honestly, I think that, one, that's good advice for a new bettor. I think it's good advice for an experienced bettor, for everyone, because, you know, it's easy to kind of forget, like, your staples, your rules, right? Like, once you go through a college football season, an NFL season, you're a grizzled veteran at the end of it, right? But then you have 5-6 months where you don't bet on those games, or that, you know, those leagues, whatever, and then you get back to it. And it kind of takes you a couple weeks to get readjusted to, you know, betting football, as opposed to you've been betting baseball all summer, right? Like, they're completely different bets. Yeah.
And one other thing, Alan, the teaser, 2-team teaser in the NFL is the best bet you can make in the NFL as far as betting wise. And I recommend side totals on that as well. But college football, the ratings are not as good as the NFL. A 16 teaser, it's why it's even money in the sports books, but $1.30 in the NFL, because the ratings are just not as good in college football as they are for the NFL. So stay away from those. Just bet a team to win and cover the spread.
See, that's why I love having Mike on this show. Legitimately, you have access to someone who has ran sports books, been on the other side of that table, understands exactly what they're looking at and what you need to be looking
Just
at.
Helping out. Yeah.
See, no, I love it. You know, and I'll say this. You were talking about making correlated bets, right, for like a 2-team parlay. So in the NFL, you know, on our NFL show during the week, we've kind of found out that we've had 8 division games in the NFL so far. And through those 8, when the home team covered, the over is 4-1. When the road team covered, the under is 3-0. Now, it won't be like that the entire year, but finding those correlations, like you said, of saying, all right, you've kind of already handicapped this game. Exactly. Like, take it that same way. Like, you've done the work on this. You know what I mean? So I like that a lot. That's always good advice. Now, we're going to take that advice. We're going to jump into some picks. Y'all want to do that?
Let's do it.
Before we do, because I thought that this was a great question, I'm going to go right here to the chat. And Greg Fincham just dropped this in here, and I had the same question. I legitimately asked a friend of mine at the bar over the weekend, can Army continue to cover? Now, I'm going to drop this in for either of you. Feel free to jump in. My question is this. How good is this Army team? Because I look legitimately every week, and they're up 44-6, 41-10. Like, they just run through people. So either of you, Micah, Chip, jump in. Any thoughts that you have on Army in general?
Well, I think, I don't follow them regularly. I don't look at their box score, but it's hard to not miss all those scores like you're talking about. And they got something clicking. They're rolling, and it's not really about who they're playing. It's the execution of the offense. And I really look at that. And I know a lot of people do, but the number keeps going up. And so it's going to catch you eventually. But until it does, why not just keep betting them to keep executing and dominating their opponents the way they have?
Army would take this week, should cover, would play it out to 10. I think Army is about an average FBS team, which for Army standards means you're pretty good, because guess what? There's 65 teams that are not less than an average FBS team. You're better than 65 of these other teams out there. For like comparison's sake, that means that Army's probably better than South Carolina, right? Like there are Power 5 teams, not many, but the teams at the bottom of the Power 5 conference are probably going to lose to Army, because Army is, as Mike is mentioning, when the execution is clicking, when they're rolling, they can just absolutely make you pay for your inability to execute. And oftentimes the teams that are mid-tier at the Group of 5 and bottom tier at the Power 5, the reason that they're there is because they're not great on the details. And that's where Army's going to kill you every time.
I love it. All right, let's jump into some picks here. All right, so Chip, your first play that you had this week, you've got NC State plus 10. All right, who are they playing against? What's the game look like? Why do you like plus 10?
Well, they're playing against the Clemson Tigers. And I don't know if y'all have checked the participation charts for the Clemson Tigers, but Clemson's only running out about 5 offensive linemen right now. Some of that is because of injuries, but I think they've got a real issue with competitive depth. And that, along with sort of the inability for there to be an alpha in that running back room, have contributed to the issues for DJ Uiagalelei. He has some of the blame here to carry as well for why Clemson's offense has been against 2 FBS opponents. Granted, one of them's Georgia, but the other one's Georgia Tech. And the fact that this Clemson offense can't get going is a real tough thing to wrap your mind around, because not only how good DJ Uiagalelei is based on his talent, but based on the evidence of what he's shown. There is a Clemson get-right game in the future. I'm not sure when it's going to be, but my pick here is saying that it ain't going to be against NC State, because Carter Finley Stadium is one of the best home field advantages in the ACC. They're going to be jacked for Clemson to come into town with a little bit of blood in the water. And I think that NC State has enough veteran experience that they're not going to get shook, or they're not going to get starry-eyed with the Tigers in town. I think that if you can get this over a touchdown, it is worth thinking that NC State is going to be up for the challenge and able to, just like Georgia Tech, hang around and have Clemson fans sweating it a little bit in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, man, that's going to be Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say Caesars sports books also feel the same way about DJ not reading and getting proper protection. He has been raised up to 50-1 to win the Heisman, which is a shock after just a few games to be that far down from being one of the favorites coming in. So that's just a little tidbit of what's going on with public perception, which sometimes is reality.
Yeah, it's got to be weird for Clemson fans. I mean, they're not, being in games, like, they're not used to even losing, to even having the chance to lose, until it gets to the college football playoffs. So
hey, yeah. They got short memories, man. They need to remember when Clemsoning was a thing, when blowing the lead and not being able to close it out. It was the thing. The fact that 2011 squad that won the first ACC title in 20 years. Yeah, remember, from 91 to 2011, no ACC championships for the Clemson Tigers. They finally broke through. Hooray, we did it, and got smoked by West Virginia in that Orange Bowl by the same play over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like, then Mountaineers hung 70 on you, and so then they kind of had to fade away. Florida State jumped back on top. Like, Clemson had to earn it, and that's very recent. If Clemson fans don't know how to handle some close games and some sweats, then let me flash you back to all the way, like, I don't know, 10 years ago. Like, come on, man. Like it ain't all the college football playoff era success.
I haven't thought of that word Clemsoning in so long. You're right.
Like, they've been so good. They killed it with their dominance.
That was a real thing for a while, right? Man, good job by them. Like it's hard to knock. Like when the public as a whole, when we put something on a team or a coach or a player, it's hard to shake that off generally, right? Because there's usually some truth to it. Yeah, Dabo knocked that the hell out of there. Like he got that out of there.
They beat Saban. Like that's the like.
Yeah.
What do you do? I don't know. You go beat Saban. Like, you can earn everybody, but like Gus Malzahn and Gene Chizik can earn a lot of respect beating Nick Saban. They still get fired for it.
That's true. All right, Micah, throw it over to you. You got Rutgers plus 20.5 at Michigan. This has been a fascinating Michigan Wolverines team to watch. They're good. They run the ball. They're quiet. You don't hear much out of them. All offseason, for the last few years, it's been just about, firing Harbaugh. And we haven't really heard that, right? But you're going Rutgers, plus 20.5. Break it down.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And Michigan, you mentioned the running game, 350 yards per game, number one in the nation. That is going to be tough to stop. But I got to start with my rating. So when I first saw the number come up, I was like, that's interesting because I'm looking at Rutgers. I got them 10 points worse on a neutral field. This is at Michigan. Let's go ahead and just say we'll give them 6 for that. I'm at 16. I'm looking for these other points here. And then I start delving into Rutgers more. I'm like, okay, I've always liked Greg Schiano. He's a great coach, disciplinarian. He gets his players motivated. His teams do not make a lot of mistakes. The defensive line is always struck. I mean, he is meticulous about everything that goes on, and it's shown in his kids. So when I went and looked deeper about, let's just check out how great they are. Rutgers defense, number 2 in the nation, third down defense, only 17% completed. That's interesting. That means they get on it in critical times. Rutgers doesn't make any mistakes. 7 penalties in 3 games. Okay, that's good. That shows some discipline. And then we have turnover margin, number 3 in the nation at +8. They don't have any turnovers. So those are all forced turnovers. So I have all these things going on. I go, this is a pretty well-coached team. And they took Michigan to overtime last year, lost 48-42. But it showed signs that they're not going to be rattled by Jim Harbaugh, who, by the way, he goes into families' homes, bringing these kids and sells them illusions of grandeur that they're going to be doing this and this. But his guys are transferring. I mean, he had a lot of guys in the portal last year, so they're not buying it anymore. I think some of the guys that are up there right now are not buying it as much. They're seeing stuff, but I mean, they still don't have a quarterback. So I'm going to go ahead and take it here. And I'm not quite saying take +845 on the money line at Circa Sports, but I could see it being close where Michigan has to rally to win in the end.
Nice. I like that. All right. Now, Chip, I'm here in Nashville, okay? The Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky are about 35 minutes away from me right now. Quick drive. Nice campus. I enjoy it. Bowling Green's a fun place. You got Western Kentucky +9 this week. What are you seeing?
Number 1, I'm seeing one of the most prolific quarterbacks in all of college football in Bailey Zapp. He's got 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, averaging, like 400 yards a game or something stupid like that. And I think that, and remember our Western Kentucky notes, right? Everybody came from Houston Baptist, right? They brought some of the players, they brought the offense, they brought some scheme, they brought some coaches. And that was the way that you inject a really serious, immediate infusion of offensive explosiveness into this Western Kentucky football program. And who are they facing? An Indiana team that just slipped on the banana peel. I mean, they not only had a 14-0 lead, but I was live blogging the game for CBS Sports, ended up writing it up afterwards. The game played out in a way where Indiana should have been up 28-0. They had an interception in the end zone, and they had a turnover on downs. Like, that should have been 28-0 Indiana, and it was 14-0. Then they continue to turn the ball over in the second half in a way that allows Cincinnati to win by 14. I mean, that whole swing from up 14 to losing by 14 can be really deflating. And I love Tom Allen. He is a plus value coach, but I think that an explosive Western Kentucky team is catching a team that is going to be maybe limping into this game a little bit, coming off a really disappointing loss to a top 10 opponent. It was a great atmosphere in Bloomington. Loved to watch it. Fun game, but just not the result that you were hoping for if you were a Hoosiers fan. There was also a targeting call, so maybe you're mad at the refs too. But I think that Western Kentucky at more than a touchdown is a great spot. That's another spot where if Western Kentucky wins, I wouldn't be that surprised. Indiana's could be really struggling right now, and this is going to be a huge game for the Hilltoppers. So if I think that is a potential upset spot and I get more than a touchdown, I love taking those points.
I love finding spots like that, right? Because more times than not, I mean, you could really find it if you identify and hit on, kind of those hangover type games. Man, it can make you a lot of money, a whole lot of money. Micah, talking about making money. Boston College +2.
They got the wrong team favorite here, and I think maybe it has something to do with the quarterback going down a couple of weeks ago. But the backup played fine in the last game. Took a lot of snaps last season as well, so it's not like he's a backup with no experience coming in. He can move the ball, but again, a disciplined team doing great things on defense, third down conversion, shutting them down, number 1 in the nation actually, and also on the other side of the ball, converting third downs. They're 54%. I thought that was pretty good as well for Boston College. So I think right here we've got an overreaction to the quarterback being out for BC, and we've also got an overreaction to the offensive output that Missouri has just been pasting on some of these cupcakes. And so they're just inflated a little too much here. BC should be the favorite at home. I think they win.
I like any time that Micah says, "Hey, they got the wrong team favored." That means that you've got all kinds of different action that you can get on it. It's fantastic. Now, speaking of action, Chip, Washington 7.5. Break it down, buddy. What do you say?
I'm gonna step out on this limb for Washington. I'm not excited about it. I do not feel good, but I do think that this number is short. The Huskies, I can't draw big picture, hey, the offense is totally fixed type takeaways from last week's performance, but at least from the perspective of getting some real confidence to the young quarterback and Dylan Morris, then being able to run it up on Arkansas State was exactly what you wanted to see. The offense was—
You called it.
Yeah, I mean, they scored pretty regularly. I thought that was something that we can build on. And this Cal team, I think, is going to really struggle. The Huskies defense is very, very good, remains very good under Jimmy Lake. And so I think this number is a little bit short, where I see Washington winning this game by double digits.
Double digits. I like that. I like it. Now, break another one down for us here. Houston -20. You like that as well?
Yeah. We gotta get on the other side of Navy. I don't feel very American doing it, but I gotta tell you that this Navy team, the boats are taking on water. The coaching staff they've been rearranging responsibilities.
Pause that 1 second. I saw that. What was it? I guess a week and a half ago. Yeah. They fire the OC. All right.
The athletic director fires the offensive coordinator. Then the head coach goes to the athletic director to make an argument for said fired offensive coordinator, who is then allowed to come back with his tail between his legs, but he's not the offensive coordinator anymore. Now he just holds another offensive coaching role.
It was the most wild thing that I've ever seen. It was amazing. Anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Keep going.
No, I mean, position number 1 is jumping on the other side of Navy. And then position number 2 is that Houston was a part of one of the more appalling second half performances that I've seen so far through 3 weeks of football in week 1 against Texas Tech. I mean, it was really bad. Clayton Tune, the quarterback for Houston, ends up with 4 interceptions. Even when they weren't turning the ball over, they couldn't get anything going on offense, a bunch of 3-play, 5-play drives. And they got outscored, I think, 31-0 by Texas Tech after holding a halftime lead. Dana Holgorsen comes out, takes total responsibility. And while the quality of opponent in the last 2 weeks does not inspire confidence that Houston is going to be making a run at Cincinnati, at UCF, against those teams at the top of the American Athletic Conference, it does show me a team that has responded well to that awful, awful second half performance. And so playing at home, playing at night against a conference opponent I think that Houston uses this as an opportunity to continue to flex its muscles a little bit with an eye on bigger conference games and more competitive conference games that are down the road. So I think Houston can put up a big number on Navy. And again, so I just got to jump on the other side of the midshipmen. It's one of those positions like UConn. I mean, not on the same level as UConn. We're talking about very different tiers.
Sure.
You just got to say, like, I just don't think that it's working for this team this year.
Yeah, a trip to the gym game. I totally get it. Like you're going in. Let's just see how many points we can put up. Let's see how right that we can get. All right, we got a question in the chat here, and feel free, either of you, to jump in on your thoughts on it. Jake Owens asks, can Iowa continue to cover and stay under this week? 3-0 against the spread. All 3 wins go under.
I like under better than the spread, just because Colorado State's defense, I consider that probably the stronger part of its team. And so, obviously we know Iowa's offense, if you can stop the one thing they do really well, running the ball, things can get a little bit challenging. The difference is that their defense has got you in a sleeper hold and is just going to field position you to death, where eventually you're punting out the back of your end zone and giving them some easy points in a short field. So I think that I like the under better than the spread, but Iowa certainly can cover, because I don't know how many points Colorado State will score on this defense.
Yeah, I agree with the under as well. I would look for that and laying the points. I'm not sure. Probably they'll cover again, but you got to like Iowa. I think they're looking forward a little bit, saying, we have a chance to run this thing. The Buckeyes with the 1 loss, maybe we can run and we can get up there and motivate. And then one game scenario, it's on us. And I think they're building on something good here. I'm excited for their season.
Yeah, I feel that the Big Ten, honestly, that it is like once Ohio State lost, like it feels like the Big Ten is wide open. It might not be. This might still, belong to Ohio State at the end, but it feels like Iowa, like Penn State, like Michigan, like they're all looking around saying, "Okay, well, we could be those dudes. Like we could do it." So the Big Ten's a lot of fun. I'm having a blast watching it so far.
Also, a little side note here. I do think maybe not this week, but maybe this week, if you still think Ohio State's going to get this done, would now be the time to buy on like a natty ticket?
Mm-hmm.
Like because Michigan surging, Penn State surging, all these reasons why you would think like Ohio State can't do it. But if you believe that Ryan Day can both manage this quarterback room with CJ Stroud doing a hurt throwing shoulder, fans are calling for Kyle McCord or Quinn Ewers, even though he only showed up yesterday. But if you think that Ryan Day can manage this quarterback room and fix this defense with whatever it takes, then I think now would be the time to say, like, hey, buy that Ohio State natty ticket, because if they get to the college football playoff, there is no one in the country that can match their explosiveness at wide receiver. So
December, Stroud is totally going to be comfortable. It's not these situations early in the season where he's trying to learn his game. If it comes to December and it's a Big Ten title game, I mean, he's going to be on it.
I agree.
That's a great point. All right, our last pick before we get into our big games here. Chip, you looking at Baylor Bears, buddy, +7 and a hook. Baylor +7.5. What do you see?
I see a Baylor team that's all right. I was kind of I came into the season lower on Baylor, and I found myself looking at Dave Aranda's crew and raising my expectations a little bit. And so with everything that Iowa State, first they have the loss at home to Iowa, then they travel out and absolutely thump Micah's Rebels. I'm sorry about that. But then they're, it does happen. Now they're going to be back into Big 12 play, playing in Waco, which if Baylor's coaching staff is looking themselves in the eye, they've got to think that Iowa State is not a team that is going to run away from us. They might, they will find ways to make us pay for our mistakes. We can't go out there and be sloppy, but there's just not enough explosiveness with this Iowa State team right now. And Brock Purdy has not been enough of a difference maker for Baylor defensively, for sure, to really be afraid of Iowa State. They need a great performance from Jerry Bohannon. He cannot turn the ball over. That is just sort of critical to this. But I think that this is a spot where Iowa State, again, could catch a loss. It's conference play, man. I just don't think that the Cyclones can run away from Baylor. And so if you can get it at 7 and a hook, I do like the Bears, the home dogs, to keep it close.
Yeah, that getting that hook, like when you get a 7.5, it's a really nice blanket, right? Like it makes you feel good. You know, when you sit there, you say, all right, man, I got plus 7.5. Okay. Like a crazy thing can happen towards the end. We still have a little bit of insurance here. I like that feeling. All right. We're going to jump into our big 6 games. All right. These are the biggest games on the board. We're going to break them down. And look, we always play a game at the end where we give away a subscription, a year long to SportsLine, based on what we think Chip is going to pick. And we're still going to do that, by the way. That's going to happen in every show. But we're going to do it now to where we're still going to have chips on the last game. We're going to do Micah's on the first game. So the first game we're going to break down, we've got Texas A&M at Arkansas. Okay, Texas A&M's a 5.5-point favorite, a total of 47.5. So everyone in the chat right now, what you have to do is you have to drop your Twitter handle so that I can find you. And all you have to put is Texas A&M spread, Arkansas spread, over, under. You have 4 options. Choose one of those 4. Whichever you think that Micah is going to take, make sure to put your Twitter handle in there so I can find you. Yeah, that's all you got to do. So just drop that in there right now, and I'll pick a winner right after we get the breakdown. So obviously, Chip, you're going to go first here. So like I said, we got Texas A&M on the road at Arkansas, a surprise Arkansas team here. All right, they're believing. Texas A&M 5.5-point favorite, total of 47.5. What do you got?
Well, while the building is managed, run, maybe owned, has been built by Arkansas superfan Jerry Jones, we are in the Cowboys Stadium. So it's like not total home field. Arkansas is going to travel well. Texas A&M fans are going to travel. I think that the environment here almost always, when we go to this game in Cowboys Stadium, it sort of leads to some strange atmospheres. Taking those teams, putting them in that NFL stadium. Now, look, for Texas A&M and Arkansas, a bunch of them probably played in high school championship games in that stadium. It's not like they're unfamiliar to that stadium, but when they get in there, these games get a little bit weird. They get a little bit strange. I think that right now, for this year's matchup, the thing that stands out to me is how Texas A&M and Arkansas have both taken some injuries along the offensive line that, to me, make it very unlikely that we will see either team have a whole lot of success on offense. Because if your offensive line is getting chewed up either at Arkansas, Barry Odom's, kind of like he kind of has like a 3-2-6 kind of, athletes all over the field type of defense, or Texas A&M, which simply has one of the best defenses in the entire country. I really think that it's going to be a game that plays more into Texas A&M's favor in that it's low scoring. Someone's got to go make a play. Treylon Burks for Arkansas is dangerous, but I'm laying the points with Texas A&M because I think that Texas A&M figures out a way to win this rock fight. And if they're going to win it, I think they win it 27-20. I think they win it 28-21. That's why I'll be going with less than a touchdown with the Aggies.
Rock fight is one of my favorite terms ever. I absolutely love it because you know exactly what that means, right? Like you know exactly what that game is going to be. All right, we got so many answers that are in the chat. Micah, who are you going with?
I'm going to go ahead and go with Arkansas here. I'm going to take the points, and it'd be obviously a lot happier if this game was at Arkansas. They've won and covered all 3 of their home games this season. All 3 of them went over. Look pretty good here. Texas A&M, I mean, you're looking at the 77 yards passing per game, and you're like, what's going on here? Okay, New Mexico, Colorado, that was a good game defensively. And then their last game against Kent State. So there it is right there. Maybe a little too much pats on the back for the defense of Texas A&M. I think Arkansas has a better offense now. Backup going for Texas A&M, although he looked pretty decent last week. So, yeah, Suey Pig, go Hogs.
I like it. And you know what? Somebody else is going to be screaming, go Hogs. Our man here, Aaron Surratt at Shahiki. Yeah, I can't read very well. All right, you picked Arkansas spread. You got it correct. I'll get with you after the show. Welcome to the SportsLine team. You just won a year-long subscription to SportsLine. All right, so let's get to our next game.
Follow Micah's picks on SportsLine.
Yeah.
Now that you've got that, Aaron, you should make the first thing that you do with that SportsLine subscription is make sure you follow Micah's picks on SportsLine.
That's a company man right there. He
The
knows.
pressure's on
Now the pressure's on. I'll say this: anybody that is a member of SportsLine and you have the app, Chip does bring up a good point. If you go to your individual favorite handicappers page and you click that follow button, you will get a notification anytime that they make a pick. So you will know the minute that they like something, you can like something. So take a look at that. I think that it'll help you a ton. All right, our next game here. And I'm really, really interested to get you guys' thoughts. We got West Virginia at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a 16.5-point favorite. We got a total of 56. So West Virginia, pretty good team, right? Like, they're pretty good. Oklahoma, I don't know what to do with this team. I have no idea because the talent is there. The coaching is there. They arguably have what should be maybe the best quarterback in the country, but it is just not looking like Oklahoma football yet. Micah, I'm going to start with you. You've got, West Virginia here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got West Virginia. I like their defense a little bit, but it's also Rattler, and I'm not getting any value to the number. This number is actually cheap. If you evaluate in Norman and the rating of Oklahoma, you're probably getting about 1.5, 2 points of value laying the points. But I got to take the points here, and it's part of it's Rattler. Looked good against a really bad team, a Division II, I think. I'm not sure who it was, their second game. But on the outside, not very good at all. Wasn't very effective at all, which is surprising because we've seen all these quarterbacks in the past at Oklahoma just breeze through the system like it's just easy for them. And maybe it's not so easy for Rattler. But I will tell you this, he has dropped from the favorite as I think it was plus 190 to win the Heisman before the season started. You can get him now at 15-1. I'm going to pass on that. And one note on West Virginia, as far as under, 10 of the last 11 as an underdog have stayed under. And we got a red zone defense stat that I like: 11 attempts, 1 touchdown allowed, 1 passing TD allowed, and 2 field goals. Only 4 scores in 11. So red zone defense for West Virginia, whatever they're doing, is working well the first couple games.
Yeah, it is working well. Chip?
Oklahoma home overs. I don't have a good feel for this game at all, so I got to go back to my bag. 56 kind of tells me that maybe the odds makers don't have a great feel for this either. But I look at Spencer Rattler ain't it. Whatever you thought he was going to be, it ain't that. And coming to terms with that in how we evaluate Oklahoma, how we talk about Oklahoma is very important for us not to think Oklahoma stinks. Oklahoma's value should not exclusively be on whether Spencer Rattler is Kyler Murray or Baker Mayfield, because he's not. And in fact, you look at some of the play calling and you look at some of the pass distribution heat maps, it looks a lot more like the Jalen Hurts Oklahoma offense than the Kyler Murray. And I think that because of his high profile, because Lincoln Riley recruited him, there was just a lot of us trying to force Spencer Rattler into being a player that he simply has not been to this point. He can still lead Oklahoma to the college football playoff and contending for a national championship. I think that Oklahoma is still everybody's selling all their Oklahoma stock, and their odds to win the Big 12 have gotten shorter. They are dropping in the AP poll, and the odds makers I seen Texas. I seen Iowa State. Nobody but the Sooners are winning that game on championship Saturday. And so I think that if we look at Oklahoma as a team that is very good defensively and can run the ball, I mean, Bill Bedenbaugh, that offensive line coach, that is one thing that Lincoln Riley loves to be able to fall back on the power run game. And it's sort of done in a way like when Jalen Hurts was the quarterback, Mike Gundy of Oklahoma State, he said, look, all they're doing is running triple option concepts out of shotgun. So when you can get a power run game in this Oklahoma offense and maintain the threat of those deep wide receivers on the outside, you really, really stress defenses and you create some explosive opportunities. So I am looking forward to seeing how Oklahoma's offense looks against West Virginia, and ultimately why I'm going back into my bag and saying Oklahoma home overs, because under Lincoln Riley, home overs have been profitable. It's one of 2 spots in the country where you just sort of circle it almost as a principle, the other one being Michigan. Michigan and Oklahoma, home overs have just been a principal play for me. So I don't have a lot of confidence in the side. That's why I'm going to the total.
I like it. And I think you bring up an excellent point of keeping a perspective on who this team is, who Spencer Rattler is. And think about the names that you threw out there. He's not Baker Mayfield. He's not Kyler Murray. Who is? Like those are two of the most explosive quarterbacks in the NFL, right? Like it's hard to live up to that type of level, but keeping this team in perspective and knowing who this quarterback actually is can keep you on the right plane when betting them. It's not an automatic, don't roll with Oklahoma, throughout the season. It's just knowing who they are. You know what I mean? So I thought that was an excellent point. And something that honestly that I needed to get in my head. Right. Because I think that, and I said it right before the picks. I was like, I don't know who this Oklahoma team is. Well, once you understand who they are with the quarterback, then you can actually make, well-educated, bets on the team. All right. So speaking of well-educated here, Michigan State, they continue to roll. I don't know what the hell to do with Miami, by the way. I don't even want to touch anything that has to do with the Hurricanes. But we've got Nebraska at Michigan State. Michigan State's a 5-point favorite, total of 52. Chip, we'll start it with you, buddy. You're all with Nebraska here. The Cornhuskers, +5.
Yeah, I think that Nebraska's defense has been a liability for a good portion of the Scott Frost era. And I thought that the fight that they showed in the game against Oklahoma last week at least inspires a little bit of confidence. It's interesting to say that after I come off of let's have our sobering moment with Oklahoma. But I do think that last week's result at least shows some interesting fight to this Nebraska team where they might be one of those squads that I love so much at the end of the season because their results don't make sense. They are a true chaos squad. And I think that Nebraska is good enough to be able to cause some problems for a team like Michigan State. It's also potentially bad enough for Michigan State to win this game by 17 points. But with Michigan State coming off the win at Miami, and not just a win, but an absolute whooping, I just wonder if Nebraska can come out, if Nebraska can stop Kenneth Walker III, who is one of the best transfers in all of college football. He was at Wake Forest, and then he's at Michigan State. Now he's running for like 200 yards against Northwestern and Miami, teams that should have pretty good defenses, at least based on everything that we expect from those programs under those head coaches. I think that we can look at Kenneth Walker after the huge day, Michigan State after the huge game. Maybe they sputter a little bit, and Nebraska is a chaos team that could make Sparty pay.
Mm-hmm.
Micah, you're going the opposite side here.
Of course. I'd like the revival of Michigan State. I think it's real. Mean Green is back. They're going to be doing their things, and kids are fired up here. New coaching regime last year. COVID, horrible, but they got it together. Everything's down, and it starts with the offense scoring points, putting up points. Defense has been well as also, but also Peyton Thorne, you got 9 touchdowns and no interceptions. That's a Michigan State quarterback. I mean, they've had some great quarterbacks in there, but I don't remember a Michigan State quarterback starting out this strong. And this is a guy that had, they brought in people to take his job. I mean, he wasn't going to be the starter. I think that Russo they brought in, and yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I was not in acknowledgement.
He's got a guy in the back sitting there waiting, and he's like, no, this is my job. And so Nebraska, I don't think they're very good at all. And surprisingly, I only have them rated like a point less than Michigan State. But personally, I think Nebraska is bottom of the Big Ten. I don't respect them much at all, despite what my numbers say. But I think the home field here will be a big advantage for Michigan State as like a payback, like great win. You beat Miami. We know Miami is not Miami, but the crowd's going to be fired up. They think they're contenders still, and they still are. So let them root and cheer and root the team on. And I think they're going to win by 10 or more.
I like it. Coming out there. This Michigan State team is fun. They've been fun to watch all year. I hope that they have success. I know that it's been craziness in that program, the last year or two, and they're having a lot of fun with it. Now, speaking of a game where it's the opposite, where I am, a lot of people haven't been having a lot of fun with this one. All right. Yeah. I'm here in Tennessee. Tennessee and Florida used to be a big game. CBS used to put that on 2:30, 3:30 if you're on the East Coast. Mm-hmm. Every, third, fourth Saturday. And it has not become that great of a game lately. All right. So we got Tennessee at Florida. Florida's a 19.5-point favorite. Total of 63. Now, I included this in here. 1, because Florida's one of the best teams in the country. But 2, I want to talk about this game, but infused with it, I want to talk about what we think Florida does after that game last week against Alabama, because Alabama looked like they were going to win 2,000-3, in the first half. And Florida came back, buddy. Florida made this a game. They made Alabama sweat. Like, not only, just a tight game, they made them sweat. They had to earn that win. So, Florida, 19.5-point favorite, total 63. Mike, I'll start with you. You're rolling with the Gators here.
Yeah, I am. And, who knows? They've won the last 4 against Tennessee. The last one in Gainesville was 34-3, covered, this number here. Nothing to do with now. But I think Mullen is the difference maker with just the confidence level of the team, being able to see themselves execute at the highest level possible against Alabama and be able to make plays, be able to create their own plays off. I just was really impressed with how they hung in there and they didn't lose their head. And we didn't see Richardson at all. I don't think in that game. I saw Emory Jones do an amazing job. I thought he played well against, such a great team like Alabama. So I think they're going to come in here and think, we did well again. That's 2 times in a row. So we look at the last 9 games of Florida. They've got 2 covers and they're both against Alabama. Go figure. But in this game here, I think they're going to come in with some swagger, and I think you might see Richardson in there get in and run another 75-yard touchdown or throw another 70. I don't know, whatever. That's what he does. I just think that they are going to outclass them and outshine them and kind of let them know that, well, Tennessee, that we're better, so we're going to prove it here.
Yeah, it's a dangerous spot because you're right. And Dan Mullen earlier today said that Anthony Richardson looking much better. He's been involved much more in practice this week than he was last week, and they expect him to be out there. Now, how much he plays, who knows? But it's a dangerous spot for a team that most people say, oh, they're coming off of a loss, blah, blah. No, I actually feel that they got more confidence coming out of that loss. Yeah. And you've got the ability that the other quarterback could play in this game too. So it kind of messes with your second half here. Chip, you're going with the Vols plus 19.5. Break that one down, buddy.
Wouldn't it be hilarious? Wouldn't it be so funny if this team that just went toe-to-toe with Alabama and in some ways rose in people's minds, even with the loss? We always talk about quality loss in the SEC. Everyone's jazzed over what Florida did. And look, Florida imposed itself. They were pushing Alabama around, running that ball. It helps having Emory Jones, at least in terms of the numbers and keeping defenses from crowding the line of scrimmage too much. But that was both concerning for Alabama and a great sign that Florida was able to win in the trenches. I thought defensively, they showed a lot of physicality in a great way. Bama body blow still exists. Bama, listen, and this is the second straight home game. So all those fans packed it and they had their hearts broken. And here comes all little Tennessee. Oh, we're going to win this one. You know what? I'll be in midway through the first quarter. I'm going to stay out and tailgate a little bit longer. This game screams late arriving fans. I don't know the Tennessee, I'm not Tennessee. I don't know the Florida arrival patterns. I could be very wrong about that. But I know from the human side of this, you're thinking this won't be any big deal. And the way that we talk about Tennessee, you would think that this line would be 23 or something like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. Sometimes you can just sniff out these, wouldn't it be hilarious because college football reasons. And this is not one of my plays. When I am graded, this will not be one of my plays. But wouldn't it be hilarious if Tennessee, laugh out loud if Tennessee wins, but even if they're close, it's going to be worth a chuckle just to see what happens in those tense moments of Florida, Tennessee, given that rivalry.
It would be. Now, I'll say this. You got a lot more confidence than I do. But no, I'll say this, though. And I've been looking at this game all week, just for everything that you guys were both breaking down. And if you look at first half points, Tennessee and Florida are pretty even. Their points, their stats. Now, they played different teams, right? So we need to keep that in perspective. But I was trying to find an angle here of okay, maybe Florida comes out, like you said, right? Maybe the crowd arrives a little bit late. Maybe Florida's a little laissez-faire, a little bit of an Alabama hangover. Maybe you could catch, Tennessee with, some points in the first quarter, in the first half. I just don't know.
Oh, but think about third and Grantham. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be third and Grantham over and over again because he's going to be sitting in third and long, and they're going to send the house. And guess what? The Tennessee offense is built to have 4 wide receivers flying down the field at all times. One of those could be a 60-yard touchdown.
They could be.
I'm just saying it would be hilarious if Tennessee wins this game.
Yeah, it would be something. I'll tell you that. Now, I will say before we move on, I wanted to bring this up. And you guys had said this 2 weeks ago on the show. Dan Mullen doesn't get enough credit for how good of a football coach he is. I 1,000,000,000% agree with that. I've sat on that and thought about it, and I didn't disagree, right? But just thinking about it, because it was just in my head. What he did at Mississippi State, phenomenal. What he's doing at Florida, fantastic. Like, he's a good football coach, man. Like, and watching that game Saturday, like, you could just tell, like, he is a good football coach. Kids buy into what he does. They like him. He doesn't get enough credit nationally for how good that he is. I'm a big Dan Mullen fan. He's fantastic. All right, let's move on to the next game here. All right, we got 2 left. All right, so here's kind of our appetizer before the big meal. Now, we talked about it for 2 weeks. Kansas State's one of my favorite teams to bet on. I like them. Kansas State, Mike, I'm sorry about this, Fresno, and Ole Miss. Those are almost auto bets for me. They're just fun. They're absolutely fun. And Ole Miss, by the way, I don't care who they're playing. I don't care what the spread is. They are becoming absolutely auto bet for me. I hate that they're not on the board this weekend, but they are a ton of fun. All right, so we got Kansas State at Oklahoma State. All right, Oklahoma State's a 6-point favorite, total of 46. Okay. My question to you is this. I think we have a pretty good understanding of who Kansas State is, even after the quarterback, situation. We got a pretty good idea who they are. I don't know what to do with Oklahoma State. I don't know what to do. All right, so Chip, I'll start it with you. You're going with the under 46. It sounds like you kind of agree how I feel.
Yeah, and what I know about Oklahoma State is that they do have a very good defense. They can go out there, they can get stops. They've got good experience. They execute well. That is something that is carried over from last season when we were expecting one thing with the return of Chuba Hubbard, Tylan Wallace. We thought Spencer Sanders was going to be it. And we talk about Spencer Rattler not being it. Spencer Sanders ain't it either. Like, he might be able to guide Oklahoma State to some Big 12 wins, but he is not really elevating that offense. And so with, Illingworth, like there's just zero confidence in that quarterback room, no matter who's healthy or no matter who the coaches choose. So I just think that with Oklahoma State leading with defense, with Kansas State being the kind of team that we know loves to run the ball, loves to play good defense, more than happy to play field position, I see this one being a lower scoring game. And my favorite play here is to go ahead and take the under.
And it's interesting. Micah was talking about earlier about correlated type plays. You guys are almost pretty correlated on this, Micah. You're going Kansas State +6. If it's going to be a low scoring game, team with the points, especially, over 3.5, 4, 5. Yeah, you got Kansas State +6. It sound pretty similar to what Chip was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's telling what we saw with Sanders last week. He only had 13 pass attempts. In a big game, a close game, 13 pass attempts, that just blows my mind. Jalen Warren, 32 carries, 218 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was impressive. He's a transfer from somewhere, but he's obviously taken over the role of Hubbard, who's gone now. But Oklahoma State, last 4 games at home, no cover. So I don't know what they're doing now. I'm looking at an average score here, and I have to take a double take. 24-19 is their average score between the 3 games. K-State somehow scoring 31 points a game, only allowing 15. The defense is the way. I think that'll be a very close game, come down to a field goal maybe, and I'll feel good taking +6.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is a type of game that screams under. Like, it screams tight game. Take the team with the points. I like it. All right, we've reached our final one, the big game of the weekend. Now, everybody, you know the rules. We did it for Mike earlier. We're going to do it for Chip. I'll come up with good names for these at some point, but we'll just call it the game. All right, so what you have to do, we've got Notre Dame at Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a 6.5-point favorite, total of 46.5. You have to choose what you think that our man Chip Patterson is going to pick. So your options, again, Notre Dame spread, Wisconsin spread, over, under. Only those 4. Drop in the chat which one you think it's going to be. Make sure to leave your Twitter handle so that I can find you. And that's as easy as that. Somebody will win a year-long subscription to SportsLine. So, Micah, obviously, we'll start with you. Like we said, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, 6.5-point favorite for the Badgers, total of 46.5. You're going with the Irish here. What do you
have to go with the Irish. I mean, you break it down and you look at the numbers and the offense, defense. I mean, Wisconsin, the numbers are completely skewed because of the 2 teams that they played. And it's given them a higher rating somehow in the robot bookmakers world. I don't know, but they are not equal to Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a better team. In fact, I had to do a double take to make sure this game was not at Wisconsin. And it's a neutral field at Chicago. I mean, that's almost, might as well make it a home game for Notre Dame. I mean, it's completely flip-flopped here. So I feel very fortunate to be getting any kind of points in this game, let alone almost a touchdown, because I'm not sold on Graham Mertz making those plays that need to be made for a quarterback in big-time college football against Notre Dame. I'm just not. He's not that guy. And they're going to be able to run the ball. They'll do some things there, but throwing the ball, making the big play, Mertz is not it. In fact, the guy that does do that, Jack Cohn, is a former Badger, and I think he's got some things to take care of here and a little, payback or whatever is on his mind. He definitely wants to win this game bad, and he's got the tools and the specialty players to be able to do that and make the big plays. I think Notre Dame wins this game outright, but take the points just in case.
Yeah, something stinks about this game in terms of the spread, right?
Because defensive metrics of Wisconsin. That's all.
Yeah, good call. Like I looked at it, when it first came out on Sunday, and I was like, "Wait, what?" This doesn't make any sense to me. All right, Chip, we've got a bunch of guesses here in the chat. They all think they know where you're going to go with it. Where'd you go?
Yeah, let's go Notre Dame. Give me those points. Like, I look at this and it's in Soldier Field. Like, it's in Chicago. I mean, this is 50-50, if not maybe even a crowd that will bend a little Notre Dame's way. I think that the Fighting Irish are more battle tested. I think that they know what their flaws are. They've seen their limitations and they've seen how they respond to it. And I think that Notre Dame wins the game. I think they win the football game. So if you're going to give me the 5.5, you can give me the 6, you can give me the 6.5. I will be taking the Fighting Irish because they are ready for this in a way that I think that Wisconsin is going to find itself a little bit limited because Notre Dame has all of its strengths and weaknesses figured out, and we've still got to see some more of that from the Badgers.
Yeah, Chicago is a Notre Dame city. I mean, no question. Yeah, I'm with you.
Right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. All right, now our winner for that, and look, I'm going to go. First off, Jesse Ackerman, you are a winner. Congratulations. Nailed it completely for both of you. Like, just nailed the take exactly the same way that you guys are thinking. Jesse was thinking the same way. You have to take the points, and more than likely might win outright. Now, I'm fascinated to watch this game, but yeah, as soon as I saw that pop in the chat, I was like, yep, Jesse's our winner. So, Jesse, congratulations. Welcome to the SportsLine team. I'll hook up with you after the show on Twitter and get you all set up. Now, that's all the time that we have. We've gone through our games. All right, now the conversation continues, right? You can find out, excuse me, all of us on Twitter. You'll see it. Look at Tom.
Tom showed up.
Now, everybody, Tom couldn't join us today. He's having all kinds of things going on in his house. Chip, I feel you'd be the best to break it down. My man's got he's got some electricians in the house. He's got some things going on. We weren't able to film with him today. He's got some things, but we miss him, and I'm glad that he popped up right there. Tom is our guy. He'll be back with us next week. So before we do, we've got to take a look at our picks, put them up here on the screen. So let me do this. Let me pull it up. And this is frightening, me hitting buttons here on the screen. There we go, right there. All right, so Chip, NC State plus 10, Western Kentucky plus 9, Washington minus 7.5, Houston minus 20, Nebraska plus 5, Baylor plus 7.5. Our man Micah is on Rutgers plus 20.5, Boston College plus 2. So, as we always do, before we go, can't thank you guys enough for joining us every single time. Chip, you got time to plug? What do you got going on, man?
I'll tell you what, I'll do this for the people out here. Young Money 11 asked about FAU at Air Force. Let's go with Willie Taggart on the road. That's a tough trip, but I would take FAU to win that game. I am not sold on Air Force.
All right. Look at him. Got time to plug his own show, and he makes to jump in the chat, help somebody else out. What do you got going on this week? What podcast you have coming out? What do you have working on?
Cover 3 podcast. Get it wherever you get your podcast. 11 a.m. Thursday, we go live. Much like this show, youtube.com/cover3. You can see it, hear from Tom. You can hear from Bud Elliott. You can hear from Danny Cannell. You can hear my full card. So 11 a.m. Thursday for the week 4 locks.
Absolutely. Now, Micah, sure do appreciate you again, as always. Even though this is your show, you're on every week. What do you have going on this week? What are you working on?
I'm working on everything. NFL, I'm going to dive into that real quick here after I get done with you guys. Major League Baseball, still absolutely a lot of fun. Dodgers and Giants just every day, pure drama. And then I got NASCAR at Las Vegas this weekend, and we're going to see Kyle Larson probably win again, but look out for Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin.
I love it. Now, one final. Go ahead. What did you say, Chip?
I said the same thing as you. Love it.
Dude, I'm telling you, Mike is our guy. Like, seriously, like when you go to sportsline.com and you're looking around for different things, like legit, this man is just work. He never stops. It's incredible. The man never stops. Now I gotta
work. You got to take all the work you can get. And I just like, well, I like baseball, I like basketball, I like NASCAR. Well, we got to do it. It's all merging now. I can't wait till NBA comes or college basketball. I got to start doing that in a couple of weeks.
See, that's why Mike is the man. Now, I got to put this in here. Like I said, I was in Tunica over the weekend. AB all over Red 7 on the roulette table. Buddy, I played a lot of roulette. I was big on the black and odd. I was playing those on the board a ton.
Had a lot of black 17. Black 17 always.
There we go. See, if I'm on the same side as Mike on that, I know that I'm in a good spot. Now, there's been a lot of requests for this. And look, Coach is the only one that could do it. But you know what? I'm going to give it a shot today. And I'm definitely going to get blasted on Twitter for doing it. But that makes it half the fun right there. You have your marching orders. Now let's take all of these straight to the pay window for Micah Roberts, for Chip Patterson. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Seriously, get these bets in, get these plays. We'll see you next Wednesday on the College Football Show. We'll see you tomorrow morning on the Early Edge. Thank you so much. Let's cash some tickets.
Do you want best bets in your feed every single day? All you have to do is hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things Early Edge.